This time on ChinnyVision, 50 C64 games reviewed in under 10 minutes. Welcome to ChinnyVision, the real hardware channel. Everything you're going to see is running on a real Commodore 64. And I'm aiming to review 50 C64 games in under 10 minutes. Starting now. Rainbow Islands is a top-notch conversion from Graph Gold. If it wasn't for the lower resolution, you'd think this was a 16-bit game. Top quality action. The C64 has the best 8-bit port of Super Space Invaders, but frankly I'd still rather play Invader Load. If Postman Pat was for real, then you'd just be delivering sorry you were out notes. Don't be put off by the kiddie image, it's a decent game with a sandbox element to it. BMX Simulator is yet another Codemasters Super Sprint knockoff. None of the fun of riding a BMX, although you do avoid grazed knees. Dalek Attack sees Doctor Who shoots baddies with his famous laser gun. An interesting two-player mode sees you rescuing barkers from the Daleks' disco. The game is not endorsed by Ian Levine. Defend your castle against sea-bound forces in Rampart. The most fun you can have building walls. Not to be confused with Ramparts. Curse of Sherwood is a budget copy of Firelord, right down to the specky style graphics. But for $1.99, there's a lot of game here. He's Popeye the Sailor Man, he lives in a caravan. This is a compact Don Priestley game, not to be confused with the arcade game, with oodles of character. Hit kids with your walking stick in Bionic Granny. Yes, really. Peggy, avoid at all costs. Keystone Kapers is a new port of the Atari 2600 classic game. Superbly polished and as good fun as ever. Escape from the Planet of Robot Monsters on the 64 is one of the weaker conversions, but it's not as bad as some people say. There's some good two-player action here, but be warned, there are a few bugs. Peter Shilton's Handball Maradona is a tacky cash-in on the '86 World Cup. This version isn't as visible as the Specky and CPC versions, but nobody wants to be a goalkeeper, let alone have a whole game based around it. Alien 8 makes it to the 64 with this new conversion. Plays as well as the original, but still suffers the same slowdown as the other versions when the screen's busy. It's good to see it on the 64 though. Before the darlings set up Codemasters, they coded this presentation over gameplay clunker from Mastertronic. Loaded up for the music, but the game itself is a textbook example of how not to implement controls. New Zealand's story is, Master System aside, the top 8-bit port. Huge fun, only trumped by the two Sega versions. The weaker follow-up to Ghostbusters gets a home computer conversion overseen by the Oliver twins. 3 levels follow the movie, the first 2 are great, but the third is a total mess. Those pesky Oliver twins and their egg, this is where it all began. A competent conversion from the CPC original, but probably I'd still rather play that or the Specky though. Ninjas were a thing in the 80s, a fun, if short, game. Super Bomberman meets Pac-Man in Rodman, compelling arcade fun from the future as 8-bit. Arcade vector-based action with thrust, simple graphics hide a top-notch game. On a system plagued with terrible racing games, Power Drift stands head and shoulders above the rest. Uridium is an arcade-quality shoot-'em-up. Quite superb, but quick reaction times are needed. Real hardware with a CRT is best. Mountie Mick's Death Ride is a charismatic and original game that is to the 64 what Stop the Express is to the Specky, but it's a bit hard later on in the game though. Real Ghostbusters? The kiddie cash-in saw an arcade game. The 64 is the best of the 8-bit bunch, but it's the weakest ghost-related entertainment since So Haunt Me. A robot shepherd herding robotic sheep. Fast, initially confusing and loads of fun. And oh, that music. Get your brain around it and you'll play it for hours. Pitstop 2 is one of the reasons C64 has 2 joystick ports. One player is okay, 2-player is pretty special. CJ in the USA is a console-quality platformer at a budget price. Although, put up against the Monty Mole games, it doesn't seem quite as impressive. Halfway through, thanks for sticking with us so far. Remember, ChinnyVision comes out every Thursday, and if you want to be notified of our latest videos, remember to click subscribe and the notify button as well. I think it's a bell or something. And ChinnyVision also has a Patreon link below where you can support the channel and get exclusive access to videos and previews as well. Right, back to the games. There's a man who lives inside your micro and you need to keep him alive and happy. Fun concept at the time, but dull today. And what does he do in that room at the top of the house anyway? Forgotten snot-obsessed character Gilbert, voiced by Phil Cornwall, gets his own computer game. If the game's dull, it has weak snot-related gags, and it's aimed at kids who I'm never sure actually existed. So, totally faithful to the original character then. Lotus Esprit is a game you associate with the Amiga, but this 64 version is a choppy but fun racer with a great 2-player mode. Turrican II, like Lotus, is a game you associate with the Amiga, but this is a great version with not much missing from the 16 bits aside from the music. Camelot Warriors follows the Spanish trend of nice graphics but confusing and difficult gameplay, and is an awful jumping mechanic as well. However, unlike many Spanish games, it is completable. Guzzler is an amusing homage to Mr. Do and other games of that era. Jailbreak is a simple concept ruined by poor execution. Neither you or the baddies can walk diagonally, gameplay is stilted, and it has all the finesse of a first attempt at a shoot-'em-up construction kit game. The third Batman movie from Ocean is one of their generic copy-the-movie games. Polished, competent, but they use the same format over and over again. Mutant Monty is a competent 2D collect-em-up from Arctic, ruined by inexplicable on-ice controls. Buggy Boy is an utterly brilliant arcade conversion. I could quibble that the game has a strange relationship with corners, but the fast and frantic arcade action means you won't notice. A true 8-bit classic. Outstanding. Imposter Mole is a top-notch strolling platformer with a thumping soundtrack. Often overlooked in favour of games such as Gianna Sisters, this is as good as it gets, but it's quite hard. Amazing Paperboy delivers. Pity though that Elite didn't bother to deliver a better port for the 64. Fruit machine games on micros are pointless and encourage kids to gamble. Totally unacceptable today and equally pointless. You may not have heard of Ivan Iron Man, but basically this is Super Sprint for the 90s. IK Plus is another reason the 64 has 2 joystick ports, fluid gameplay, great graphics and crunching sound effects, the pinnacle of the 8-bit fighting genre. It's the 90s and it's time for Puzznic? The Tetris-inspired puzzle fan of the era saw yet another block-matching game, but this one has charm. Easily confused with many other similar games of the era though, plotting specifically. Whizball is a game I've never really got my head around, but I'm assured it's a classic. Everyone else can't be wrong. Can they? Enduro Racer isn't a bad game at all. From a static screen you think it looks pretty good, but it's just a bit too choppy to stand out. Shame, if it wasn't for the speed, it could be a bike equivalent of Buggy Boy. Boredom is the disease, this is not the cure. From an era before Ocean nailed the movie conversion format, this is an average platformer. Go play Dragon Ninja or many other games instead. Not the Ocean Space Mutants games, but this is the USA Simpsons game. Proving why cassettes hampered the C64 game evolution in the UK, this shows what can be achieved on a disc-only game. When you say Scalextrics, you think of a figure-of-8 circuits with that electrical burning smell. Sadly, this is a weak Pitstop 2 clone, but it does have the advantage you can design your own circuits. But do you really want to? Riderama is yet another Graph Gold classic, brilliant on all 3 major 8-bit platforms. Some bemoan the Spectrum-style graphics, but those people are shallow fools. As gripping as playable as it was in 1987, regardless of format. G-Loc had the thrills of a cabinet that spun 360 degrees in the arcade. This version will have you hurling the tape out your window while it spins 360 degrees. Total rubbish. I can't believe it's not Commando. No Bodhi though. Solomon's Key is a forgotten arcade puzzler that is actually lots of fun. Chunky, attractive graphics on the 64, and a game that is criminally overlooked. Stop the clock! We made it. That is 50 C64 games in under 10 minutes. If you liked what you've seen, please do like the video and remember to subscribe and click on that notification bell and all that tedious YouTuber stuff that I'm supposed to say. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.